Now it's important. Say that 5 times fast. It's important. It's important that you push this around all the way. You don't want to get any air bubbles in there. Just push it once and not all the way, because you don't want these things to come off. Okay? So I've already done that. I kind of went like that on my first go, straight up like that, and then over like that. But I just want to give it a once over. Make sure those are all nice and tight, okay? That's your next step. Okay, now, hey Joe, what are you going to do now? How are you going to cut these nice and straight? Well, look at what I've got. I just happen to have this. This is a piece of track, I call it. This is 3 5/8, 22 gauge track. This is how you build walls. Metal stud walls. You use the track on the bottom and the top when you screw it up to your sheetrock or you screw it up to your T-bar ceiling. It's basically designed for commercial stud walls. You would make all with the metal, but I've seen some people have furred out sheetrock walls using track, and they've got track that's studs that are 1 1/4. So you can get 1 1/4 track. You can get a little bit wider track. And but the standard's 3 5/8. So I got a piece of that at the store. I actually got that at the Home Depot, and they come 10-foot lengths. And I did that, and I cut it in half to fit it in the car. I brought my 10 snips with me, and so I know that one's 5 feet long. So I'm going to use that for my straight edge. Okay, I use this stuff for all kinds of stuff. If I need a little piece of flashing, a little piece of L flashing, anything like that, I can cut it and I can use track. Okay, easy to store and all that kind of good stuff. If you don't have a piece of track, you know, this is kind of too long for like a 2.5 foot level that you could use as a straight edge. If you had a 6 foot long level, you could do that. When I used to build interior metal stud walls in commercial, I had a 6 foot tall magnetic level, and it's just a strip on the side of it that's magnetic, and you put it on the side, and then you can plumb your walls up and all that kind of stuff. I could use that if I had one. If you got a long 2x4, you can use that for your straight edge. If you don't have that, if you got a long shelf, let's say you've got a long shelf. Now these, I cut these, and this is just plywood, and if I found one with a nice straight edge where I didn't cut it, you know, you don't want to use one where you cut it with your skill saw, because it's not going to give you a nice straight line, you know, depending on how straight you could cut it. If you find where your edge was that you haven't cut, you could use that as your straight edge. Lay that down on the ground. If you don't have that, if you got a long shelf, let's say MDF shelf, closet shelf, and you got an extra one, you got it up in the attic, pull that down, use that for your straight edge. Anything like that will work. Okay, so before I cut this, I've got to do a little thought process. I'm going to read the directions a little bit more, okay, before I cut anything, and then I'll get ready to cut that. Now incidentally, when you cut insulation that's faced, it doesn't have to be this plastic stuff. It can be regular R13 that you fit into a 2x4 wall, or R19 insulation, and you've got faced insulation. You always want to put that facing down before you cut it with your sheetrock knife. You don't want to put it up on top. It's way easier to do it down at the bottom. And like I said, I'll get set up. I'll figure out which piece of plywood I'm going to use for laying this down on the ground. You don't want to lay this down right down on top of your concrete, okay? You're going to make you're going to make 4 or 5 cuts with your sheetrock drywall knife, and then your blade's going to get all wonky, and it's going to be dull, and then you're going to start wanting to rip this and not cutting straight, and then you may put marks down on your floor and all that kind of stuff. I never do that. Even on a construction job, I don't like cutting right on top of, you know, even if it's a subfloor. I don't like cutting right on the subfloor. I'll take a 2x6, a long 2x6, set it on top of that, or a piece of plywood, or you know, 2x4, whatever I've got, scrap plywood, whatever. You'll see what I'm talking about. I always try to keep things nice when I'm doing my job. Okay, I've read the directions and everything, and let's just, okay, let's try you right there. Okay, I'm gonna carefully measure this time. Remember I said it was like 18 inches? Well, it's not really 18 inches. That's from joint to joint, you know, way up high. But, and it's hard for me to get my, okay, I got my tape measure down in there. 17 3/4. And I could have held my tape, you know, like that. 17 3/4 is the width. And you want to make sure you measure all of your panels. And I've already measured them, but you know, they should be all the same, but don't make the assumption. Just quickly measure them to see. You know, you can measure from outside to outside on all of them just to check, because you don't want to cut your insulation and then find out you're short because you made the assumption all the panels were the same. But usually when garage door manufacturers make them, they'll make all the panels the same. Now, the reason why this insulation is wider, these are like 21, 22 inch panels. And the reason why they did that is because this happens to be a 6'8" or 7 foot tall door, or maybe an 8 foot tall door. And you can also get 9 foot tall doors, 10 foot tall doors. I mean, it just kind of varies. And if you want, before you get your insulation at the store, I think they only have one size fits all, but this one, you remember, was for one standard. Where did it say? I think it was on the other side. Covers one single uninsulated garage door. Okay, so obviously they have these for 2-car garage doors. And then you might want to measure your panels, but these panels, they try to do you a favor. They try to do them, see, these are 22 inches high, 54 inches wide. They try to do whatever is needed to cover up all your panels, okay? And so check all that, and now that I know, let's get back to this panel here, 17 3/4 it was. I'll get my tape measure down there. And that's from inside to inside, up underneath that lip. 17 3/4, but I do not want to cut the insulation that way. You always want to cut your insulation more, and on these directions it says cut it about a 1/2 inch taller. Okay, so if I got 17 3/4, that means 18 1/4 inches. And I wrote down like 18 3/8. I wrote down 18 3/8. Now, I don't want to make it any more than that. I can make it just a hair shorter than that. 18 1/4 should be fine. Okay, that's even if you're cutting insulation to fit in between studs in a wall or something. If you got a rip to do, I always cut it long, about a 1/2 inch longer, so that way when you after you get done, you can kind of fit it into your opening. And that's what they want you to do when you're installing these panels. Okay, so I got 18 1/4, and you remember I think it was 52 inches. These are they call it wide, 54 inches wide. That's the length, but they're saying wide this way, from left to right, 54 inches. And remember, I measured the plastic, and the plastic I think was 52. Because see how they extend the insulation beyond this edge, and to fit it in there, to smash it in, all that kind of stuff. And that's not the actual vinyl. So you remember, I measured that actual vinyl. I guess I could measure this again. And you want to get your rolls out and look at them. make a decision on where you're going to cut them. See, I've got a fold here on the plastic over on this side. So when I cut my 18 1/4, 18 3/8, I'll cut so that I rip this side off. So I'm just gonna do a quick measure on this on the plastic bit. Now I got it flat on the floor right there. So I got 52 1/2. Okay, and so I'm still gonna do what I told you I was gonna do, 52 1/2 of the plastic. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna end up putting the plastic over this edge so that I can tape it onto this. Now you don't have to do that. You could just cut it to there and let it stick out, but then you're gonna see some pink bit of your insulation coming out on both sides. And plus I already got this, this insulated garage door is taking up some of that gap. Now if that insulation wasn't there, this insulation is probably 1 inch thick or so, then it would be pretty much flush with this, okay? But mine's gonna stick out, so that's why I'm thinking of overlapping this and then putting the tape on this bit here. Do you see what I mean? And so if my plastic is 52 1/2, and I got from the center of that to the center over here, that's almost exactly where it should be. The plastic is going to go from that point to the center over to about right there. Okay, and I can pull it back and then I can tape it. I can tape it right onto this side here, and so that'll look really nice there, and this will look really nice here. The only thing on your tape, I'm going to use clear shipping tape. Now hopefully 3 years from now the shipping tape's not going to yellow and discolor and all that kind of stuff. If it does, you can peel it off, put another piece on there or something, you know. And that's why I'm thinking, I'm not quite sure if I'm going to put the shipping tape on this edge just yet. Then I'm going to have to put it down on top of this and hope that it sticks on there nice and straight, and it might come off and it might get kind of wonky. So that's why I'm hoping to just kind of pooch it up there. I'm having a feeling, because this insulation is already on here for the insulated garage door, that it's going to stick out, and more than likely I'm going to have to put some tape on here. Obviously I only have from here down to stick that on that, and then the rest of this I can't tape to there, because that's the garage door panels as it goes up. See? So there's no way I can tape any further than that. You see what I mean? And so it remains to be seen exactly what's going to happen with that. But I think I've got my game plan. First and foremost is to cut it. And I'm gonna do 18 3/8, I think, to cut it. I don't have to really worry about the lengths and stuff. I can still be thinking about that as I'm cutting these down. I've got 8 panels. I've got 8 panels to cut, right? And I've got 8 panels here. So the first thing I can do is figure that out and cut those, okay? Now, how are we going to cut this? Hey, they give us a couple different options, and I'll talk to you about that right now.